Hello, I'm Eric Snodgrass, and thank you for watching today's midday weather outlook for the southern region brought to you by Nutrien Ag Solutions. Well, our all hazards weather map early this morning is quite busy, with this large low pressure system emerging out of the south central plains and then running right here along a tight temperature gradient. Our main front, we can see widespread flooding threat here with the threat of some pretty nasty winter weather on the north and west side of this. What you see surrounding it, this color right in through here, lets us know where we have our high wind threat throughout today. And so in addition to the severe weather that will initiate here and then move into the day on Saturday over into this area, this entire system is going to have very, very strong winds around it. So let's get right into some of the details. This is from the latest update from the Storm Prediction Center. They've now expanded the area over which we are anticipating severe weather today, and they've increased the area of the greatest threat into this new moderate risk, which you see here. They have been discussing this morning about expanding that moderate risk a little bit farther to the east as the day progresses through. But if we break this down into the three main threat areas, go first to the map that's in the upper right. That is where we have the tornado threat. So in northeastern Texas, southeastern Oklahoma, western Arkansas, northwestern Louisiana, we're going to watch late today for the best wind shear profile to potentially produce some strong rotating thunderstorms. 10% probability of having a tornado within 25 miles of any given point. Throughout most of this week, a lot of us have thought the main threat out of this system was going to be from strong straight-line winds due to a large squall line that will form, and I'll show you that in a few moments. And certainly the Storm Prediction Center agrees. They've actually got a 45% hatched region where we're anticipating having those wind speeds well above the 60-mile-an-hour mark as these storms come rumbling through. I do think by the end of the day we're going to see quite a few reports of those strong winds. But there is a hail threat, as you can see here, and that hail threat is going to set up right on the dry line, which I want to detail out for you in just a few moments. So this is the main corridor through which we're anticipating the severe weather today, and this of course translates east on Saturday. So Saturday throughout the day, getting into the evening hours, we're now going to be watching parts of Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama as having the greatest threat as the primary squall line moves through this area. So this is going to be a very tough ending to the week here, with not only some extremely heavy rainfall, but also the threat for strong and damaging storms. Taking a look at that rainfall, this is how much we're going to be getting out of this system and the lingering boundary it's going to leave around through next Tuesday evening. So what you're looking at here is total accumulated precipitation. There's a pretty wide section here of the United States that will be getting anywhere between 1 and in some locations over 3 inches of rainfall. Zooming in specifically in the southeast first, we can see that as the storm system rides along that main frontal boundary here, rather than digging to the south and east, our precipitation amounts get lighter as you get over toward the east coast. So specifically parts of south, eastern Georgia, the coastal Carolinas here in Florida have the lowest probability of getting a lot of rainfall out of this. But come back over to the main frontal boundary, which I drew the arrow through, and you can start to see that right into this area, there's the potential just through the next 5 days of grabbing better than 3 inches of rainfall. Some pockets may get more than that depending on how the thunderstorms kind of train over. Now, stepping back a little bit farther to the west, the western part of our southern region here, we can see that the dividing line is set up really well here on our main dry line. Therefore, if you are west of that particular arrow, or not arrow, but line that I drew here, the probability of seeing much precipitation is relatively low. Now, we're going to start off with the severe weather threat, where the storms are going to be coming together and moving as a line in the direction that I just drew those 5 lines there. But on the back side of this, we're going to watch for the switch over to some snow. Take a look at this. This is the possibility here of picking up some snow in the panhandle and north central part of Texas, but then certainly getting into central Oklahoma, spreading into Kansas and Missouri. So possibly in through here, a 2 to 4 inch zone, maybe locally some heavier snowfall amounts as the system gains strength throughout the day today and into early tomorrow morning. So do be on the lookout for some snow behind this as well. Now, this was just released yesterday. It's the new drought monitor map. And while the drought in southern Texas, the drought that's right here along the Red River, and the drought in the Four Corners states will likely still be here a week from now, I do anticipate seeing some changes here with all the heavy rain that will be coming through. But overall, in the last 30 days, looking at the percent of normal precipitation, we will be seeing a pretty substantial increase in the precipitation departure from normal in that area. But places we don't need this rain stretch from the Mississippi River Valley through the Ohio Ohio and Tennessee Valley getting over into the southeast. And so where we've got, some places in here 100 to 150 to 250% of normal rainfall, this is going to be adding quite a bit of water to places that are already very, very saturated. Okay, so in terms of the dynamics of this system, currently it's got this positive tilt to it, so that line kind of leans to the right, as you can see there. But with the strong winds coming in like this and then lifting, splitting even a little bit like that, the system will very quickly take on a negative tilt, which means it's going to pivot around. Now, with the winds splitting, like I just drew here, we have really good upper level divergence where the air is spreading out aloft, and also very good upper level diffluence where the air is also, we almost call this, it's a form of spreading more away from a central region. And all that means is we're providing great upper level support for the development of a low at the surface here. And that's what we can see if I just step you down to the surface winds. You see the low pressure center taking shape here, and it's going to ride right along this temperature boundary here basically toward Michigan, eventually to the northeast. Feeding it, well, there's that high pressure cell we talked about all week, just giving its moisture out of the Gulf of Mexico straight in to this line right here. So that is our main dry line feature. That's going to be the feature we're going to watch today, because on the backside of this very dry air here, cold air here, but the warm, moist, unstable air out ahead of it. And that's the air we're going to lift on that dry line initially to be producing, well, our severe weather threat for today. So here it is. This is a map later on this afternoon of what our surface dew point temperatures look like. And what we notice is right in through here is the dividing line with the really warm and humid air out ahead of it, dew point temperatures way up in the 60s, or on the back side of that line, we're talking about dew point temperatures in the 20s. See, the main cold front is back here. And so this is going to be a system where the severe weather threat today is coming out on the dry line. I'll be honest with you, if this was May, this would be a massive severe weather outbreak. Thankfully, this time of year, we at least limit the upper levels of the atmosphere, getting them away from the incredibly unstable air. It'll still be unstable enough, though, to produce a lot of severe weather. So starting you off, let's look at our high-resolution modeling. This goes back to 1 o'clock this morning. We saw some widespread rain with some thunderstorm activity moving through Arkansas, Missouri, and then up in Illinois and Indiana. But as we play this forward, let's pause it right here. Later on this afternoon, we can see this large, it's almost like a big convective mess right in through this area. The transport of moisture, the widespread shower and thunderstorm activity out ahead of it, then comes together with a line right here by 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock this evening. So this will be the line which will be producing the damaging winds later on this evening, and you can see its main position. While on the backside here, this is all potentially the changeover to some snow. Now that line progresses forward 9, 10, 11 o'clock tonight. We can see that by the time we get into the early morning hours on Saturday, so this is 2, 3, 4 in the morning, the storm system will be knocking on the door here of the Mississippi River. Now, early in the morning on Saturday, it crosses the Mississippi River as a pretty powerful squall line. And then as we start to get some of the heating of the day, it may help enhance the line of storms as they move through Mississippi over into Alabama. But you saw for Mississippi, this is going to be a relatively early morning setup for Saturday as the main frontal boundary moves pretty quickly. I got you out to 2 o'clock on Saturday afternoon, getting into Saturday evening, and then getting into Saturday night. So you can see that from early morning Saturday, the storms are Mississippi. They move all the way over to the Appalachian Mountains through parts of central Georgia by midnight on Sunday. So this is going to be a pretty quick mover after it gets out of the lower Mississippi River Valley. But as I said, see, the storm system lifts up in eastern Canada, and as a consequence, the precipitation amounts get lighter as you go over toward coastal Carolinas and Georgia here, and that extends down into Florida as well. Okay, so what happens after that? Well, the main frontal boundary just sits right in through here, and I want you to pay attention to that when I show you the long-range European in just a few seconds. But before I do that, I want to at least give you a look at the precipitation type, because throughout the day today, we're going to watch for a region right in through here where we transition from rain over to some freezing rain late this afternoon and this evening, and then on the backside some snow. So this is about 6 p.m. this evening, getting you through the evening hours, and into the early morning hours tomorrow. So again, we might possibly see a wintry mix of some sleet and snow in here from late this afternoon to this evening all the way through early tomorrow morning, with a brief changeover to some snow on the backside, and that's where we saw the snow kind of piling up right into this area. So this progresses on through just like we anticipated, and it goes out again to Saturday midday. From here, watch this. European model, this gets us out 10 days now. Pause it right there. We've already seen through Sunday morning. So it appears that we get a slight break, but not really. This system leaves a frontal boundary right in this area, and with the high pressure cells still sitting here, it's putting that moisture back in place. So this is now Monday morning, Monday afternoon and evening. And right there sitting on that boundary is more precipitation. Why these scattered showers and thunderstorms here? Getting into Tuesday morning, Wednesday morning, you see we have a very stormy start to next week, and we're going to be watching again for another trough to emerge out of the southwest, come right here into central, Corn Belt region. By next Wednesday, got our next system moving through, and this is going to give us another chance at having some strong to severe storms in this area. And again, this next system, a week from now, let's call it 6 days from now, potentially very, very strong synoptic level winds, so the broad scale winds around this. So that system moves through and high pressure comes in. Now look, this pattern is not done. I'm just going to show you it, but know that details are going to change here. Another low forms the following weekend, the 18th, and takes off. And it is maybe after that time period that we finally start to see a bit of a pattern change. And that is something I definitely want to talk to you about at the end of this video. So just looking at this upcoming Tuesday through the following Tuesday, we certainly keep this storm track doing something like this. Okay, and that's what's going to help keep parts of the southeast on the warmer side of things very active right through the mid-south, the Ohio and Tennessee River Valley, getting into the lower and mid-Mississippi River Valley. Drier in this corridor. Okay, so that is looking out, get you out to the 21st of the month here. All right, what are the temperatures going to do before we give a long range and finish this out? Well, you're going to see the main frontal boundary hang out here, such that bitterly cold air is in the north central part of the United States. But our southern region, we tend to try to hang on to some warmer air. We do get a quick shot at some cooler air. Let me show you that. So here's the forecast for high temperatures today. If we start this on play here, look at how things change into Saturday. So there's the cold air that dips down. That gives us the potential for snow in this area. But watch, ready? This was Saturday's highs. Wow, look at the 70s spreading here out ahead of this system. But look, there's Sunday. Already the rebound begins in this area. And getting into Monday's highs, a lot of 60s and 70s for our southern region. Tuesday's highs, see it? The split is right here across the country as to where the colder air is much farther north. In the southern part of the United States, very warm. This is now Wednesday's highs, Thursday's highs of next week, getting all the way out again a week from now. So we really see our southern region trying to hang on to some cooler weather as we watch these next two systems emerge. So through the next 5 days, here's our maps. The country is very much split. In fact, North America, look at this. Much above average temperatures here out ahead of all these systems. Very cold from the Canadian prairies right here into the north central part of the United States, with this cold air occasionally flashing itself right there behind each one of the fronts that comes through. Days 5 through 10, we can still see a very similar setup with overall trying to hang on to some milder conditions here. Although remember, it's going to be quite wet, so it's not as though it's going to feel, summer-like all the time. It's just going to be milder than average. What I want to do to finish this up, though, is to show you some new longer range updates here. Days 11 through 15. We saw the models transition yesterday to give us a little bit more of a hint at some cooler air trying to move out of the central plains and north central plains and occasionally invade into the southeast. Now, I made a case on Wednesday that I think that any shot at cooler air is going to be relatively short duration for our southern region, especially for the southeast. In other words, maybe just a few days of it, not locked into a cold pattern for 10 to 15 days. That was my main case for the southern region. And here's my reason why. When I look out here just to next Tuesday, our pattern, take a look at it with me, features a ridge over the Aleutian Islands, a ridge over the southeast, and a ridge over Europe. And in between them, see our trough is in the west and our trough is south of Greenland. Because of that, look at the way the jet stream winds flow. They come screaming off of Asia, split over the ridge here, dive into the trough over the west coast, go over the ridge in the east, and then dive here to the trough that's south of Greenland, and then ridge again over Europe. Okay, what changes? Well, let me take you out here to the 22nd of January. The biggest changes are happening in Alaska and south of Greenland. You see, with the trough developing here on the tip of the Aleutian Islands, we're anticipating more ridging coming into Alaska. And if this ridge sets up here, this just pushes that trough that was sitting in this area farther to the east. And if that happens, the flow tends to dip back south like this, and we would call this broad troughing. At that same time, we see that the North Atlantic, instead of having a deep trough here, goes over to a ridge, and we've just basically translated the whole system to the east about 1,000 to 2,000 miles. So this is what we're watching here for the end of the month, and the jet stream is responding, and it's this ridge over Alaska and this ridge right in through here that's got me thinking about the changes in the overall pattern. Now, certainly the Arctic Oscillation tells us that the polar vortex isn't helping out with the transition to the cold. But what I've been talking about a lot lately is this North Atlantic Oscillation. Remember that when it's up here in its warm phases, the southeast and the east have a difficult time at getting sustained cold air. But we see the NAO coming here toward, well, neutral conditions, and the same time that happens, the Mount-Julian Oscillation will come out of the very warm phases for the southeast of 4, 5, and 6, and may temporarily come over into phase 7. Now, if we time phase 7 with this dip in the North Atlantic Oscillation, this could give us that cold shot of air more than 10 days out from now, and it may stick around. Now, watch this. If we've got the NAO wrong, and it actually stays closer to neutral or even comes down further like this, and the Mount-Julian Oscillation doesn't do what we anticipate, which is come into the null phase, but instead hangs out over here in phases 7, 8, and 1, well, then we're going to have a big pattern change for the end of the month, especially the start of February, possibly getting into some cooler weather for the eastern half of North America. And yes, that goes against what I put in my long-range forecast, but it's something I'm on the be on the lookout for. And the reason why is because I just found this out, yesterday when this was released. January 21st through February 21st, these are temperature anomalies. Now, you still see that much of the southern region is trying to show near average to warmer than average conditions. But remember when I showed you this on Wednesday? That is a pretty decent cool down for that area, pointing toward a much more possibly active, see how wet it's supposed to be in through here, and cooler and drier weather to the north and west of that. So we need to keep an eye on all of this and see how the models transition these features throughout the next 10 days or so. And with that, I'll just keep you updated. All right. I want to thank you for your attention. I hope that you all have a great weekend. Please be careful of the severe weather today and tomorrow. And for all of us in the southern region, we need to definitely keep an umbrella handy, but make sure it's wind resistant because the winds are going to be strong. All right. We'll finish it up right there. Thank you so much.